Hello, everyone in the VC. It's Matt, and so carrying on where we left off with Wildlife, the last Paul McCartney album that I reviewed, it didn't really sell well. I guess it did by most people's standards, but by Paul McCartney standards, it didn't. And so when it's time for the next album to come out, they made real sure to say Paul McCartney and Wings instead of just Wings. And instead of a group shot taken from far away, they made real sure to have Paul's mug there front and center, so there's no mistaking who this album's by. Rose Speedway came out in April of '73 in America and May of that same year in England. And it did better. This one went to #1 in America, got to #5 in England. This is an album I had back in the '70s through the early '80s. I had pretty much all the Beatles solo albums. I got them, and there were a handful, 4 or 5, that I never got around to picking up till much later. And this one I never got. This was one of those. I got this. Finally got a copy of this about 15 or so years ago, and I'd heard a couple of songs off of it, but it's just one of those that I always had a gut feeling that I wouldn't wasn't one of his better albums, and is one of those I'll get around to it eventually, and just never did till much later. Um, and unfortunately, that gut feeling turned out right, because this is not a very good album. This may be even as bad as Wildlife is. It still has a couple of 2 or 3 fun song moments. This might be Paul's worst album. And there's a couple I'm really not familiar enough with Press to Play and a couple of the later albums, so maybe there's something worse out there. But um, it's not it, it's not the terrible parts of Wildlife or worse than anything on this album. This is just a strange, odd man out album for Paul, because good or bad, and he's made his share of both types of song through his solo career, he always has that knack for a melody, that ability to write a catchy song that gets stuck in your head, even if it's not a very good song. And there's Spies Like Us is an awful song, but I mean, it's catchy as hell, and you don't forget it. And on this album, with 1 or 2 exceptions, the ability to write those catchy melodies, to write those memorable songs, just totally disappeared. Uh, and I don't know that that ever happened to him any other time, really. And it's just like flat soda pop. This album. I've played this. I played it. It's not an album I like very much, so I don't play it very often. But I'll take it out and play it, once or twice a year, something like that, maybe. I played it twice yesterday, front to back, and every time I've listened to this album, with the exception of 1 or 2 songs, like I said, 5, 10 minutes later, you think about the album and you're like, I can't remember how any of the songs go. They're just so forgotten them already, which is really strange. And I don't know if he didn't know what to do after the Beatles, depressed. I don't know if he didn't care, had the I'm Paul McCartney, and so all I got to do is show up attitude at this point. He's making some strange albums, some strange career choices around this time. And he had made greatness. He'd done Ram. McCartney has its share of great moments. Even Wildlife, is as poor of an album as it is, has I think, 3 good songs on it. But this album, it's just I've heard worse records, but it's just ugh. So, I don't know. Big Barn Bed, first song on side 1. You can hear a snippet of that at the end of Ram on Reprise on the Ram album. Here It Comes Back Again. It's a nice opener for for this album. It doesn't really go anywhere, but it's close to being a classic McCartney song. It almost gets there, but it just doesn't quite make it. It's a pleasant and enjoyable song, and it's I guess it's the best thing on this album. I'll give that one a 6. I mean, well, and that's kind of being generous, but it's a nice song. Um, okay, number 2 song on side 1 is catchy, is memorable, is full of hooks, and it's, in my opinion, maybe, possibly, probably Paul McCartney's worst ever song. Uh, and, you know, fair enough, get out the pitchforks, come after me. I know a lot of people love it. It's, I mean, it's just my love song, which went to number 1 in America and maybe in England too. I forgot how it charted in England. It's third rate Barry Manilow, and first rate Barry Manilow is awful. So it's not even that. It's like third rate Lawrence Welk. It's just it's smaltzy, dreary, boring song. People talk about the great guitar solo in it, which technically is you know uh, very nice, but it's also very tasteful, but it's also very boring. This is Fat Elvis in his jumpsuit in 1977, wheezing away on stage, and it's just a sad, pitiful, boring, smaltzy, horrible song. Yeah, I give it a 1. And I know people love it, but I don't get it. Never did. Didn't like it when I was a kid. Don't like it now. Song number 3 on side 1, Get on the Right Thing. Uh, it's almost catchy. It's like Big Barn Bed, but it tries to be catchy, and it almost gets there, and it just can't get to the finish line. Uh, and it's one of those songs it's got that shrill, distorted backing vocals on this copy anyway. And I've got this on the Columbia label, which is kind of interesting because later on when he signed with Columbia, they put out his older records. It came out on Apple originally. Uh, it's a song that Get on the Right Thing is a song that you're listening to, and it's not even there when it's there when you're listening to it. It's just it tries. So I'll give it a 3 for effort. One More Kiss is the 4th song, side 1. It's kind of a country sounding intro that bounces along, and it's enjoyable, nice. It's a slight song that doesn't add up to really anything in the end, but it's enjoyable. It's probably if maybe the second best song on the album, or maybe the best. It's between that and Big Barn Bed. I give it a 6. Little Lamb Dragonfly. Try saying that 3 times. Wraps up side 1. Pleasant enough song. It's nice. 6 minutes and 20 seconds is way too long. I give it a 5. We go to side 2 with a whole lot of enthusiasm after having suffered through side 1 and waking ourselves up to find the song Single Pigeon. Nice piano, nice vocals. It's a fine song that's instantly forgettable and goes nowhere. I give it a 4. When the Night is second song. It's another song that's close to being an actual good song. Doesn't quite get there. It's pleasant. I give it a 4. Loop, the First Indian on the Moon. Where the hell does he come up with these titles? It's an instrumental. I kind of like, well, I don't really like it. It's boring, but it's kind of somewhat interesting in that it sounds like one of the instrumentals on Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Pink Floyd album. A great album that's a 10. It's towers above this thing. That I was so, but the song on here has no pulse. It's a 2. Then we go to a medley. I guess he was trying to do recreate Abbey Road medley, which was greatness. This medley, greatness not so much. Got the songs in the medley are Hold Me Tight, not the old Beatles song, Lazy Dynamite, another dumb title, Hands of Love, Power Cut. Hold Me Tight's okay. It's just just okay and nothing more. You know, it's just basically repeats the lyric "Hold me tight" over and over and over and over and over and over. I give it a 4. Lazy Dynamite's just a stupid song. It's just I give it a 1. It's not really much to say about it. It's ignorant. Hands of Love reminds me of a song by someone else that came out after this album, and I was racking my brain trying to figure out what the song was and who it was by, and I couldn't think of it, and now I can't remember how it goes because, like I said, you play this album and 5 minutes later you can't remember it because it's so boring and forgettable. But anyway, Hands of Love I gave a 4, so I guess I must have liked it somewhat. Power Cut sounds sort of like later 80s McCartney stuff, like mid to late 80s type McCartney sound to it a little bit. But it's still boring. I gave it a 3. Overall, this album, I give a 3. And it's probably the McCartney album I play the least, and may well be, like I said, my positively least favorite McCartney album. The sad thing about this is that in and around the time of this album coming out, not really directly around, but within late 72, early 73, he had released several 45s. Give Ireland Back to the Irish, which I love that song. I love it musically anyway. Love the guitar in that. That's a great song. Then he released another 45, Mary Had a Little Lamb, backed with Little Woman Love. Little Woman Love is a great song. Mary Had a Little Lamb, okay, that's dumb, but you know, okay. Then he released High, 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 backed by Sea Moon. Both of those are brilliant, great songs. Then he released the 45 of My Love, backed by The Mess. My Love is a mess, of course. The Mess is great live cut from the 72 tour. Live and Let Die and I Lie Around, great song. I mean, everyone's sick of Live and Let Die because he's been playing it in concert for 100 years, but still a great song. I Lie Around is a Danny Lane song that he sings, is a pretty good one. And then Hell on Wheels and Country Dreamer, which I think that was closer to later on, closer to Band on the Run, but Hell on Wheels is great. Country Dreamer is a great kind of country, well, not kind of, it's a country sounding song. So that's 9 songs that he could have thrown any 9 songs off of this because they're all irrelevant and replaced them with that, and he would have had a pretty damn good album. And you could even toss Mary Had a Little Lamb in there, you know, and it's bad, but I mean it's better than My Love. Still not great, but hell, almost anything's better than My Love, except maybe Angie by the Rolling Stones that came out I think the same year as this, but we won't go there. And I mean, he could have used those and had a pretty good album. The scary thing is this was supposed to be a double album. Can you imagine sitting through twice this forgettableness? No thanks, but I'm sure if he gets around to releasing this on an archive, we'll get the full double album, and who knows, maybe the stuff he left off is better than what he included. Can't be worse. Things do get better, but for now, skip it.